35, 40 people sitting in the audience here, all excited, munching, and enjoying themselves. We also have the potential, we have 156 people registered on the web, which sounds really good, and it's great. We really thank all of you who have interest. The challenge is we can only afford to have 100 of you online at any given time. So as people come on and off, jump on and get into this discussion. Ed, they really love you, obviously.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. No pressure at all. This afternoon, we took a great opportunity to spend the day with Ed Horton and his colleagues, wife, employee, right, grower, here today at the University of Arizona, and he met with students looking for opportunities, the students looking for jobs. We get to show them around the CEAC, and we get to end with what Rafi Gruner, who's not here today, helped organize our monthly special seminar series that we will have every month from now on for the rest of the year. And we're really pleased that Mr. Ed Horton from Urban Produce in Irvine, California, will be speaking with us this afternoon about his business, about something like 16 acres of vertical farm in 1 square foot or something like that. Something along that line. It's really intense. And we want to find out how it works. And we're going to find out right now. Ed?
Super. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Shane, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Again, Ed Horton, Urban Produce, Irvine, California. And Dr. Giacomelli, I want to thank you so much. We've been on a whirlwind tour today of the campus and the CEA growing unit and whatnot, and what a spectacular facility that you guys have built here. And we're looking forward to continued partnerships and relationships with the university as we grow as a business. As we had indicated, it is vertical growing. We're a CEA farmer in Irvine, California. That's exactly what we are. We're a farmer. We just happen to grow in a building versus out in a field. And we have patented technology. Our goals and objectives are to build more vertical growing units in the United States. That expansion is taking place now. The vertical growing unit in Irvine has the capacity to produce approximately 16 acres of product. We have a full culture lab in the facility. Currently, we are selling and retailing to both retail and food services wheatgrass and a variety of microgreens, basils, and the like. Additionally, in the lab, we are looking, and thank you, Doctor, for your time today out in your beautiful strawberry unit. But we are testing and growing a variety of different strawberries and beans and peppers as we advance as a company and look to get into some more mainstream crops. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you a quick video. We're going to go through a very quick PowerPoint, and then we'll go into a Q&A, and we would be more than happy to answer any and all of your questions. So if we could start that video.
By the year 2050, it is expected that we will need to produce 70% more food in order to feed the world population, thus putting a strain on our already depleted natural resources, such as water, food, and energy. The resource taken for granted most is water. More than 2/3 of the Earth is covered in water, but did you know less than 1% is usable? Currently, the state of California uses 20% of its energy solely to transport water from source to consumer. Agriculture currently uses 70% of the world's fresh water, which is increasingly in short supply. As natural resources continue to be depleted, current farms are starting to see the effects, especially with record-breaking droughts. The solution? Urban produce. We understand the current issues and know how to create a sustainable alternative by utilizing our patented vertical growing technology. We believe this is 21st century growing. Urban Produce has developed a patented and sustainable solution to traditional agriculture by utilizing advanced vertical technologies that have the potential to change the global agricultural landscape. Vertical growing maximizes the use of available space to grow crops by stacking produce vertically instead of horizontally. Using our patented vertical growing system, we can grow approximately 16 acres of produce on a 1/8 acre footprint, maximizing space and energy consumption. Our growing systems can be built above or below ground in natural or artificial lighting. We have no limitations to seasonal changes due to our controlled environment. Urban Produce will build and grow produce anywhere in the world, in urban cities, rooftops, cruise ships, casinos, military bases, and theme parks. We will change the way produce is grown, transported, and consumed. Regarding our food safety platform, our decision to go with Disney Eye Certainty was easy, based on their best practices, know-how, and ease of use. A majority of produce in the U.S. is grown in California, Arizona, or Florida, but just envision the possibilities when produce is grown in Cincinnati, Baltimore, Nashville, Atlanta, or Denver, providing fresh, organic produce in the dead of winter with minimal transportation costs. The Urban Produce vertical growing system will make that a reality. One vertical growing system will produce approximately 1 million pounds of produce annually, all while stimulating local economies and providing urban cities with organic fresh produce 24/7, 365 days a year. The USDA tells us that produce travels on average 1,400 miles prior to consumption. This creates a sizable carbon footprint. With the reduction of all the transportation, Urban Produce customers will consume fresh, locally grown organic produce year-round. With the decrease in fertilizer usage by 80% and water consumption by 90%, Urban Produce is the answer to 21st century growing. At Urban Produce, our mission is to build patented vertical growing systems all over the world, above or below ground, in natural or artificial light. We are a locally grown, sustainable, organic solution for urban cities worldwide. We hire and stimulate local economies while reducing our carbon footprint. The future of farming is right here, right now, and it's growing up. We are Urban Produce. Join the solution.
So as we get ready to queue up that PowerPoint, we really think differently about how crop production is going to take place over the years to come. We heard a lot of words in there about organic. You heard about carbon footprint. But if you we talked earlier at the lunch meeting about transportation and logistics. If you're able to create local jobs and local communities where you're growing local produce, it's being consumed there, it just creates a completely different look and feel relative to urban farming. So we're very, very excited. Again, we are an organic grower. We went through those certifications and all the gap and whatnot in order to be a certified grower. But we're really looking forward to the expansion and forming relationships with the University of Arizona and the CEA unit here, as well as some others. We certainly don't have all of the answers. We've got a good start, and we're looking forward to collaboration and discussion and hiring very smart students that have been in this environment and understand where all of this is going. So I'm going to get back. Did I hit this? Or there we go. So a number of different reasons, right? Transportation, the USDA tells us that produce travels on average of 1,400 miles prior to consumption. And so there's a number of different pieces in that, the carbon footprint that it's creating, but as we talked about again at lunchtime, the cost to transport produce from California to the Northeast is very, very sizable. So we look at a multitude. Sustainability. We're producing our own water. So we have a collaboration in our growing unit with a company in Los Angeles, and it's a piece of equipment that they're patenting and we actually produce about 100 gallons of water a day in our growing unit out of the atmosphere inside the growing unit. So we're working extremely hard on sustainability as we take the technology out in the U.S. and then other parts of the U.S. So consumers, we all know what consumers are now thinking, and as the statistics tell us, locally grown has become number one from a consumer want, and organic is number two. It just moved into second place. Locally grown is a very, very important item to consumers right now, and that's why we believe as a local grower in Irvine and what we're looking to do as we expand is going to be very, very positive. The drought, we understand that. The issues specifically that the state of California is going through. You could look at the other side of that fence. I know, Merle, we talked about it a little bit a few moments ago. We've got an El Nino coming. It's getting ready to impact us just on the opposite side of the drought. So all of those issues we don't have to deal with as a CEA grower. We grow produce 365 days a year in a controlled environment that eliminates a lot of these issues that unfortunately these conventional row farmers are having to deal with. I feel bad for them. Salt of the earth, good people, work very hard, but Mother Nature has its way of dealing issues to us. So again, we're really excited about our model. We can't grow. I know the question came up at lunch today. We can't grow everything. We don't plan on growing everything. We're a specialty grower. We're going to avoid commodities. We're going to look for markets, right, in specialty crops and whatnot and varieties as we go through this. I don't want to be everything to everybody. We're going to be very specific as to what we grow and produce. The technology is patented. We have U.S. and international patents. I have 6 international patents on the growing technology, and our intellectual property is growing. There's been a multitude of things that we've patented around the initial patents this year, and we feel that that's important as we work and go. I don't know, the video that we showed at lunchtime was a little bit different than this one. It actually showed the growing unit. It moves around in the building. So our ideas about how to do this are different. We move the product. It actually rotates in serpentines in the building, and we move the product through light tunnels to give it the appropriate light that it needs depending on that crop, and we move the product to watering stations where it gets its nutrition and water. So a little bit different way of doing it, but we feel that proper light and air distribution as that's moving in the building, which we control. We control how much water, nutrients, light, and airflow that the product gets inside the building. And again, with collaboration and what we're working on and what you folks are working on here at the university, I think we can further this. We've got a long way to go. We've started, we're excited, but we've got a long way to go. Again, and this talks about it. You can see it here. So these are vertical carriers that hang on an overhead conveyor system that sits 30 feet up in the air, and that all moves around in the building. And we have loaders and unloaders that go up and down on scissor lifts that load and unload product as we're ready to harvest as we go through our crops. The process, we talked about it. It's vertical, right? I am able to, my footprint is on about 5,800 square feet. The reason that's important is because I have to heat or cool that space, right? I'm not horizontal going out acre after acre after acre. I'm vertical, and I need, energy consumption is really, really important to us. And so vertical growing, vertical farming is obviously where we are. And again, the ratios that you look at when you get inside a building. Seasons, right? Traditional, conventional growers, they have seasons. I don't. And so as Doctor, as you and I were talking about a little while ago in the greenhouse, right, catching those markets when there isn't certain products, beans, peppers, strawberries, and bringing products to market that aren't available at that time of the year, or limited as it would be. We talk about microgreens and that market. Microgreens are baby vegetables. They're highly nutritious. Chefs have served and fed us microgreens for years. It's now starting to become somewhat mainstream, and you're seeing these products in the retail markets. But if you think of microgreens as baby vegetables that have 4 to 6 times the nutritional value than that of its mature counterpart, it's really starting to kick in. And so we have chefs and most of the major retailers that are buying our products from us now, and I think our microgreens are up to probably 9, 10, 11 different products that we're now bringing. It's interesting because we're on demand, which is something I want to talk about. We just don't grow product and hope we can sell it. Everything that we grow in our growing unit is sold, right? So the retail and food services people, they give us orders to grow them product. We grow and we deliver that product. From a sustainability standpoint, we felt that was very, very important. We just didn't want the loss, and we've talked about that a little bit, how much loss there is in growing itself. And a typical produce department has approximately 35% loss, food loss in the produce department. It's truly sad. And so we're trying to do our part from a sustainability standpoint to just grow what they want and deliver that to them and not have a whole bunch of excess. We also talk about where this product is going. We were laughing a little bit again today at lunch about the peanut butter and jelly sandwich with some broccoli microgreens on it. So moms are trying to get that product into their child. It's highly nutritious. Slide some into that PB&J. The child won't know any different, and they're getting that nice nutritional kick, right? So soups, salads, pizzas. We have a product called Hot Mama that has just probably been one of our best sellers, that specifically on tacos, to give that taco that nice little kick, and you have that nutritional content in that as well. Here's the CE, the K, the beta K. This is the study that was done by the USDA and the University of Maryland on microgreens. This was done in March of 2013, and I think this really helped the microgreen market get into the mainstream. The chefs were using it. They had been using it for quite some time, but millennials and moms alike started figuring this out, and the microgreen market has excelled very nicely for us. We grow and sell a lot of microgreens today. Some of the products that we're looking to grow and test, and I know Nicole is with us in the back. She's one of our growers responsible for new product development, and so she's required to come to us and talk about new products. Right now she has strawberries, organic green beans, and peppers in the product development lab. So she brings that different substrate, different lighting configurations, different watering configurations, and then once she feels comfortable with it, we then run an economic model and make a decision as to whether or not we can take it out to the growing unit and get it into production. So she's on board with us, and we're looking forward. We talk about strawberries, peppers, and beans. Well, what is it going to be next quarter? I don't know, but we're looking to find products that we can grow and deliver to the marketplace. Okay, so that is the promised short video and short PowerPoint. So I'm going to open it up to Q&A if I can answer any questions. And then you've got a microphone that we're going to make sure. And then were there some people, Dr. Giacomelli, online that we're going to email, or however that works, questions lined up?
Yes, there's already some questions from online, but
okay.
Should we start in here? There. Okay. How do you produce the nutrients for the plants you're growing?
Great question. We're an organic grower, So we're limited as to what we can grow and use as an organic grower, but we're also on the, we brew our own tea. So we have a tea brewing system, and we have our own formulas that we use in our tea brewing. So we take that tea brew and we mix that in with our substrate, which is a specific blend that we use, very similar, cocoa, peat, with some perlite, and we blend in that tea brew, which is our process to try to, from a micro level, really push that growth and root structure in the beginning to get things going. I would say our microgreens, and not like others can't do this, but our microgreen production from seed to out the door to the retailers is about 8 days, and our wheatgrass is about 6. So we do a good job to try to accelerate that when we can.
Other questions?
Yes, sir. And your name, sir?
Okay, Jim Bedell.
Hi, Jim.
My question is the facility itself, because it's unique in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the concerns we have sometimes with things we're dealing is the facility we have to use. Do you have a picture of what your facility is? Or are you in a building by itself, or are you in some other structure?
I'm in a commercial building in Irvine, California. I share the building with Toshiba. So they're on one end of the building, and I'm on the other. We're in our total square footage is about 28,000 square foot for production and seeding and germination, shipping, receiving.
The reason I ask that, because if I brought this to the attention of some of the people I know, they're going to want to know where it's at and what it looks like when it's operating where up. In other words, the size of the facility,
mm-hmm.
how much space it takes. We know how much farming space you take, but the concern is the facility itself. What does it look like? What could it be used as? Because in some of the areas that we would be thinking about doing this, there are aesthetic values to the landscape that have to be addressed. And the question I have is, what type facility are you in? Can it be adjusted to any type of facility?
Yeah, great question. Yes, we're in a commercial building, again, with other folks. I think it's a nice building. There's pictures of it on the website. The follow-up to that, though, I would tell you, is we're in about 27,000 square feet now. Our expansion units would be standalone 100,000 square foot. We're looking to grow 4 times to what we're at right now. But if you want a picture of the building, I think there's one on the website, if that's what your question is. What do you think of my building?
You never know it's a farm.
I think that's probably the point. You would never know what I'm doing inside that building if you looked at the building.
But the point is, could you do it in a standalone facility?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
In an urban environment, it could actually be in a rural environment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And a follow-up to that, we're in a CEA environment right now. We're in a building growing. I can take my high-density vertical growing patented technology and I can put that in a greenhouse if I want. I don't have to be in a building. Right. Yes.
Jack Hughes over here. I'll give you an opportunity to address the optimization of photons. In essence, part of the overview of agriculture production and water utilization involves the aspect of using the sun's light as best we can and artificial energy only as we feel is necessary. Do you have specific panel lighting or particular panels that lets the beautiful sunshine of Southern California service your plants at various times? Do you moderate that? How do you give optimal opportunity for the photons to give photosynthesis?
We do not. We do not. We actually cover those on purpose to reduce any heat or anything in the building. So we grow strictly right now under straight LED. And Philips is our partner, and that's what we grow under.
There's a question from online that says, what type of lighting do you use?
So yes, Jack, thank you for setting that person up. You did a great job. We looked at a multitude of different, there's all, as everybody in this room knows, there's all types of lighting. We looked at a number of it, tested it for months and months, and we ended up with Philips. Philips is our partner, and we have ample lighting in our building right now for the products that we're growing. We're getting ready to add in more light banks relative to some of the other products that are going to be coming online that are going to need additional photons, moles on a 24-hour basis, yes.
And along that line, there's another question that asks how, this might be putting you on the spot here, but make something up, okay, please. How much power does each farm use in a single day? How is that power generated?
How much power does the farm use? I'm in a building. I pay an electric bill like everybody in that building, Toshiba and the like. So my energy consumption by the gram has not been calculated yet, right? But relative to energy consumption, I pay electric bills just like we all do. But as we're looking to be more and more sustainable and get off of the grid, we've worked on the water situation where we're producing water, and we're also looking at solar now so that I can generate power using solar as we go down that road. But right now it's straight energy consumption from SDG&E.
Okay.
Did I do good enough there? Is that?
It's a start. It's a start. I think we'll be coming back to that.
There is a gentleman back here, I think, that has a question as well.
Yeah, I know him, but he's a good guy. We'll get to him in a second. One other one, you talked a lot about water. Somebody asked, I don't see any plumbing. How do you water?
Okay. So we talked about how the high-density vertical growing unit serpentines and moves around in the building. And so we have 25 rows. Our rows go 25 high. And that entire row will move over to a watering station. And it'll be watered. All 25 rows will be watered right there at that watering station via the computer system. So when we seed, germinate, load product, we tell the software what's going on, what it is, how much water and how much nutrients you want to feed that carrier, and then it'll move. The unit is constantly moving in the building unless we are harvesting. And then it's programmed to move around and water appropriately depending on what it is.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the solar, but since you've pretty much covered that, you are going to be going into solar. On this, are you recycling your water after it goes through the system? Are you recycling what is going through the system?
We do not recycle water. We don't have any water to recycle. So our technology and the way we do it is we only give those trays or that product exactly what it needs. We have no water to recycle.
Precise, very precise. Along this line, several questions came up. What is your growing media?
If I told you, I would have to kill you. But yes, That's
why I asked in public. So
we use a blend of cocoa, peat, and perlite in certain blends, and the substrate is not necessarily the same depending on the product, but that's a basic makeup of our substrate.
Hi, Ed. Coming back to the irrigation system you have, we see different types of crop at different levels. Do you practice a variable rate irrigation scheme, or everything is at once and with the same amount of irrigation? Do you see some room for practical application there?
So if I understand your question correctly, so when the 25 rows move over and park itself in front of the watering tower, that whole row is watered the same amount. The second phase of the software, as we get a little bit further down the road, and I believe you and I were talking a little bit about this afternoon or this morning, is that we're going to put sensors on those rows. So the phase 2, that carrier would move around, but maybe only rows 6, 9, and 15 would need water at that time, and just those rows would be watered.
There's another question online, Jack. 1 second. Another question online is if you're able to tell us this, and I can only be killed once. So, your source of nitrogen. What is your source of nitrogen in this organic system?
She'll answer that question.
Nicole is going to tell us. Everyone, this is Nicole, a recent graduate from not the University of Arizona, but
Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. We use a variety of different ingredients in our brew. A lot of kelp emulsion, and we're also using a fish emulsion, and a product called BioLink is our main product right now.
That are all OMRI.
They're all OMRI certified, yes.
And Phil Donahue is over here. He's right.
questions.
Thank you, Nicole.
Right? Oh, Jack here. You can't keep Jack down long.
You inspire us, and that's great. One aspect of this that I'm visualizing ahead is integrative systems with architecture, and the aspect for which in suburban and urban life, the aspect of Gene has shown us areas where on the outside of an apartment building there can be structures that are providing fruits and vegetables to the people living within. But I'm beginning to visualize a patio within a living complex that can have integrated energy, integrated water, and integrated food production. Have you begun to conceptualize this with any people within the architecture community?
I have heard from them. The architectural community have sought us out. There's a gentleman in New York and one in San Diego that we have visited with to look at some of these concepts and whatnot. Additionally, without going into too much detail, I know what our growing units are patented. I have another one, another configuration, if you would, in the USPTO. We're really starting to get excited and busy with respect to the restaurant community. So you would see a growing unit probably half the size of this room in the middle of a restaurant, and your tables would be outside of the glass partition. But there are a lot of restaurateurs as well as architects that have communicated that would like to put a growing unit actually physically in their restaurant. And the serpentining is getting a little crazy, but we're trying to.
Hi, my name is Michael, and will there be any aquaculture or anything like that in the near future?
I didn't hear you.
Aquaculture?
We're very familiar with that, but it's really not part of what we're looking at. There's a lot of folks that are in that doing very, very well. We've got some partnerships with some folks in Chicago, but no, we're not looking to go down that path.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I have two questions. First one is, what's the longest distance of shipping of your products right now?
Right now, with respect to the retailers that we work with, Phoenix, Vegas, and Southern California is the longest. So fresh and easy you'll find in Nevada, Arizona, and Southern California. So Albertsons, it's all predominantly Southern California, Bonds and whatnot. We are going to start doing business with Kroger's. Out here it's Fry's, right?
I see. And then, so you are selling the living microgreens, correct?
Yes.
How challenging is it to ship when you use a substrate like perlite and pea? Crumbles come into the.
Yeah, I would say I would just say just the opposite. We from a business standpoint, we all know if you're going into a produce department, 9 times out of 10, somebody's coming out, right? So I've had to unseat people that are in there. Because we deliver a live product, that has given us a lot of value. We have a sell. Most retailers have you put a sell on by date, and our living product has a 21 to 25 days shelf life because of that substrate and because of how we water before that product goes out the door. We have some really solid longevity in the retailer.
Yeah, I understand the value, but do you see any issue of how they handle the package during shipping, upside down? And
No,
no?
We put 140 cases on a pallet. That's shrink wrapped. It goes into a distribution center. It goes onto a truck. I think, Doctor, probably a better answer for you, because I know where you're going. So retail market, no, we don't have problems because it doesn't get turned upside down. It just goes on and off a truck and into the retail store. What we're doing, we have another market or division that we're working on, and that is the 61,000 white table restaurants in the United States. And whereas probably in Arizona and California and Florida, we're somewhat spoiled with produce and how fresh and good it is in this area, for the folks in the Midwest and the Northeast in the middle of the winter, right? So we're looking at programs to where we can actually FedEx fresh live product and that turning over. So I'm working with some folks tomorrow that that you and I were talking about relative to packaging, because the substrate's heavier, and when one of those, I don't want to call out one of those companies, but when you're throwing that stuff around, it flips. And so we're working hard to try to figure out how to level that.
Yeah. Can I ask the second question? We'll give you one more. Okay. Good. So the second question, so you said 16 acres in 1/8 of acre footprint. So how many layers actually you have?
So we call the technology and the patents, if you look at it, it just, and I just want to remind you that I'm in a building now, which is a CEA environment, and I could take that same technology and put it into a greenhouse, which we will look to do as an example in San Antonio, right? So as you expand and you go out there, where are you going? What's your product? So we would want to take advantage of the light and the sun, to your point, in San Antonio. But when you go to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania in the middle of the winter, you can't always count on Mr. Sun to be there when you need him. So that's where we would go into a CEA environment in Pittsburgh, in Pennsylvania and Cincinnati. But in San Antonio, we're seriously considering going into a greenhouse environment. Did I answer your question?
No. So the 16
so
acres.
You want a fourth
So 16
follow-up.
16 acres sitting in, for example, 16 acres that I can easily, okay, this is one layer.
That's right.
But you said 1/8 of acre, so my simple math, 128 layers. Do you have so many layers actually, or
you need to come visit me. Yes. Yes, we call it high density vertical growing. So my rows are 8 inches apart, right? So we've got everything, and it goes back to the point that was asked at lunchtime. I can't grow everything, right? There are some things that I just can't grow because of the way we put the technology together. We grow in very tight spaces to be able to give us that kind of volume out of that type of space. But I encourage you to come visit me. Yes.
I look forward to that.
There are about more than 50 people online right now listening. I hope they can all hear clearly. And the page on the screen of the computer is filled with questions. I'd like to give one more before we get any more in the audience here. And it has to do with the quality. You talked about nutrient density, and then someone mentioned about flavor. There's always this concern about quality, flavor, and value in this artificial system that you put together here. What can you say?
I say that's a very valid question, and one that comes up quite a bit. What we did, though, is we went out and worked with chefs. So my daughter formed a relationship with the American Culinary Foundation. We got a number of chefs together, and as we worked on these different, I'll call them flavor profiles or blends, as we sent these out to these chefs and asked them for flavor profiles and making sure that this had the pop and zest. We've also had a company called Chromadex look at our product and analyze our product from a nutritional standpoint. And so, yes, we're very comfortable with, even though we're growing in a controlled environment under artificial light, we believe we're able to grow a very superior tasting product.
Good. I'm hungry. Other questions? You're good.
I was wondering, when you're looking towards future expansion, are you really considering keeping this all under your control, or are you looking more at like a franchise model where you'll have other people come purchase your systems and operate them themselves?
Great question. And our current business plan has 3 parts to it. One is to build and scale Irvine, which we're doing right now. The expansion of the 5 growing units that I had described, that's phase 2. That's in the works as we speak. And once we get the technology seeded into into North America, if you would, the 3rd phase is to set up master licensees and to license the technology worldwide. And so that would be a phase 3. We call it licensing, franchising. Yes, sir.
With your controlled watering, I was just curious, do you do surface watering or through capillary, through a tray?
So let me take a shot at that, right? So we have our watering tower, and our product, we should have brought some trays, probably easier to show than to tell, but we dispense water into a tray, and we're bottom up, right? So our and again, we grow in the clamshell, right? One of the aspects of our technology and reducing our labor and how many times you have to touch the product. So we put our substrate and our seed in a clamshell. That clamshell sits in a tray. That tray has canals. I have 16 clamshells that fit on a row. And so it pulls itself around to the watering station. Each one of those trays gets X amount of water that gets disseminated equally amongst that tray, which then gets absorbed up through the bottom of that clamshell into the substrate. I hope I answered that.
You ready?
Yeah. Well, it's an observation.
I need to lose weight. I know. I'm sorry.
No. You do know that there's currently a movement in the islands in Bahamas and there where the resorts themselves are being very cost conscious. Because we're talking about it costs so much to carry it, 1,400 miles. Well, they're carrying what they need to make the product for their clientele, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 miles. The question is, if this could be sized properly, it seems to me that that's a whole market that, to be honest with you, right now is hungry for something to happen because they can't afford to have special items like this in there.
You're absolutely on point, and I would answer it this way. Under non-disclosure, I can't tell you who, but I'll use Hawaii as an example because we all think of the Hawaiian Islands, beautiful food. 90% of the produce that goes out to the Hawaiian Islands has to come from the mainland. And so these resorts that you're talking about, these major resorts, so we've got Hawaii, you're talking about the Caribbean, and they're also very South Pacific, and even in the Middle East, in the desert resorts that are out there. They have to bring in all of that produce. So we are in dialogue with a number of...
The only concern I would have is that while they're interested, I'm sorry, while they're interested, okay, I love microphones. My only point is that that's fine with the small items that we're talking about now, but they also need some of the bigger vegetables and items like that.
Yes, sir.
And I'm looking at this and I'm saying, well, I know tomatoes are a big thing here. Okay, if you got them 6 inches apart or whatever you said, I didn't catch it. How are you going to grow tomatoes in this environment? You're going to have to make it the structure different. So,
You know, it's modular, so my rows, my rows are 8 inches apart. We built it modular so that I could take out a row and I could go to 16, I could go to 32. So I have adjusting, but to your point, viney, as we indicated, can't really grow everything, and we're not sure that tomatoes would even fit into that scenario, into our scenario. I'm sorry, where are you from? Are you?
You were saying that your facility had about 28,000 square feet, and you used about 1/8 of an acre for the actual growing equipment. So how many times do you think you can multiply that within the same facility? How many of these units do you think you'd be able to fit in the one facility?
There will only be that one unit in that facility. So we have cooling, germination, packing, seeding, and offices. So when we moved into this building, and as we look to expand these 5 other units, so receivables, payables, marketing, sales, all will be run out of Irvine. So there's a lot of office space in Irvine that would take up some of that space.
Okay, so the 1/8 of the acre is just for the growing space of the vertical rack.
Correct. Correct.
I understand that Singapore is pretty well dependent on vertical farming. Did you study them and travel there and get some good consultations before you did your own?
People would think you were a plant, but actually, we have one of our we hold patents on our technology in Singapore, and as we went through this, there's a company called Sky Greens in Singapore that was probably the closest to our technology that I found when we went out and explored. Ours serpentines and moves this way. Sky Green goes up and over, and they have been subsidized by the government in Singapore. And the last I heard, CNN did a really nice piece on them. They had about 100 greenhouses up and in production, and little space, and so they're doing a great job, as I understand it. Yeah.
Hi, just a quick question. Not quick, but
take your time.
So in sub-Saharan Africa, there's an area where the water is infected with a parasite, but the people are dependent on that water, and they suffer occasional river blindness, which is early onset blindness from the parasite. In the 70s, Merck developed a drug that was able to help them out and stave off their disease for several decades before it came. And when it came out that they were able to research that and they had the drug available, they made a pact to deliver as much of the drug as possible to the general population as much as they needed. My question is, would you be looking at something similar, like a humanitarian expansion towards like a food desert, somewhere in an urban area where there's people who can't afford the food? And
that is actually our ultimate goal. So we got scale Irvine, build the 5, go into a licensing, and then my wife and I are looking to build a foundation, and we want to take, that's why we're working now on the totally off the grid. So we believe we've pretty much fixed the water situation by being able to create water. To your point here, I mean, you could put growing units all over the world, but if there's not good water there, you're not going to get anything accomplished. So we feel comfortable with the water solution that we have, and then we're looking at solar alternatives so that we could go into remote areas of the world and help and give back. That is our ultimate goal.
All right.
Say it again. He's going to yell at you. He is going to yell.
You're going to just repeat the question, if you would.
The point is, when they
If there is a question.
The energy is important, and you have to face it. No matter where you take it, energy is important. So it's important to have that figure in mind.
Yes. Energy consumption is his point. Wherever we go, energy consumption is going to be. Yes.
Question, in the day we live in, the unit, the amount of power and the water you use, do you have a backup power system to supply for several days or a week in case there was a power outage of a major size like we have had in parts of the east and when power transmission goes down. Also, water backup for a week or whatever. Do you have any of those type of systems?
So we call it critical component backup. And so there's a multitude of critical control points in our operation that we have to have backup for, specific pumps for the watering tower, et cetera. But specific to power, and you probably remember years ago the rolling blackouts that happened in California. So we're leasing our space. I don't own that building, so I'm going to give you a short answer to your power backup. So instead of having a backup generator, which I can't have at that property, there are companies that we engage with that will come out in a, you make the decision, 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, and if you would envision a big socket on the outside of my building, when they get initiated, they just back up that unit, plug it into the side of my building, and I'm back up in an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever I decide relative to that plan I want. That's where we are right now. I would hope our goal is when we go out on the expansion units, we're looking at buying and owning those properties, which would make it a lot easier on this backup and also the solar scenario that we're working through. But right now, it's a on-call type of a situation.
Excellent. I just want to comment that this group here in the classroom is asking many of the questions that are on the computer, which is nice. So either you are texting it to the computer somehow, or you're clairvoyant.
This is very important. Now, thinking in the future, are you planning on going public as a way to attract funds and grow? Because apparently this is going to be big in the future, or at least that's what we're dreaming.
You know, it has, I have a board, I have an advisory board, and I have a board, and yes, we dialogue and talk about this. The decision has not been made as to whether or not we would do an IPO or a reverse, but it has been talked about. The reason why it's important now is because if you ever go that way, the way you're set up and structured as a C&S and LLC is really important how that's structured now if we were to go down that road. So it has been discussed. And everybody in this room is part of the friends and family when we do that. So.
All right, so we know somebody on the inside is what you're saying. It sounds good. There was a question online that asked about how are you capitalized? How did you make all this happen, or you just have a huge bank account and you started up?
I have one capital partner. I put this together, built a business plan, and was probably this is my third company, and this was probably the easiest capital raise that I've ever had. It was the first one I met with. It was, they funded me. And the goal was one. I really didn't want to have 100 people putting in 100. I have one solid institution that backed us. Yes.
Hi, Ed Monty. I'm liking everything that I hear. I mean, everything, all across the board. You guys are doing it right, and it sounds like you got the right motivation, the right heart condition, and you got good business savvy. So I like all of it. I do have a question about these expansions.
There's something you don't like.
No, okay. No, not at all. Not at all. I'm just curious about your capitalization costs for these new units that you're looking at doing. Also, I was curious about the software. You talked about your software. Was that something that you sourced outside of the company or something you developed yourself?
So we got to be careful on a couple of these answers, but I'm going to try to do the best I can. So yeah, we sourced an application that then we went in with programmers and designed relative to what operates the conveyor and the lights and the water, et cetera, et cetera. Relative to capitalization on the expansion units, I'm going to be careful there, but I would tell you that what we're looking to do is it's important. Nobody likes dilution, right? So what we're looking to do is kind of leave urban produce alone and create joint ventures or JVs in these expansion units to where there would be a capital partner. There's a multitude of funds that are looking to get involved, and so they would own part or all of the 5 expansion units. So JVs is how we are going to look at capitalizing that.
I had one more follow-up question.
Yeah, question.
Okay, all right, I'll pay. It had to do with you said you had a partnership with Phillips.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, when you mentioned partnerships, how does that work? What exactly does it entail? And you also talked about something about how the produce goes through a light system to give the proper photons that it needs there. Are you tuning those LEDs for specific taste of the crops, like more infrared to boost, certain polyphenols or whatever,
So I would say that I use the word partner because they've been really good with us. When we call them and needed different fixtures to test in our lab, they were really good to get us product when we went through that testing cycle. So we made a decision. As an example, we're predominantly right now a leafy greens grower, and so there are 3 specific diodes in that fixture that work well with what we're growing. And so they helped us design that relative to our specific growing.
So they don't have any capital investment.
No.
They're just strictly a vendor for you, but they're working with you to develop what you need.
Yes.
Okay. Did that cost you anything for them to do that?
That's another question. Let's not get too personal here. There is a series of questions about pathogens, insects, diseases, and one specific about, do you have a mold problem? And I hope you never want to admit that you don't. But could you speak a little bit about the challenges of the biological organisms that are going after the great crop you're trying to grow?
I would make a couple of comments, and if you want to make a couple as well. Know this, there's good mold and bad mold, right? And when you say that word, everybody flips out. I would say wheatgrass, which we produce a lot of. Wheatgrass is one of our best sellers right now. Inherently in wheatgrass, you're going to get mold. So yes, we do, I'm going to call it scrubbing, right? We scrub our facilities, our germination, our growing unit, where we clean our trays, our seeding area, even our lab. It's a process that we use, but we scrub it to make sure that we're as clean as possible relative to mold, pathogens. I also invested money with a company called Aericide, and we have units in the lab, in the growing unit, in our coolers, and it's a photocatalytic reactor. So if there's any organic matter that's floating around in the lab or in the growing unit, it's not a filter. It will actually dissipate that organic matter. So we're trying to do everything we can to stay as clean and sustainable. Did I touch on everything? Do you have anything else you want to throw in?
Give me a heart attack here.
We just try to focus on prevention and environmental controls. Our dehumidifying efforts have really helped a lot with mold control as well, and just really watching the irrigation as well.
That's excellent, because you brought us into another question that was online. It was about environmental control. Do you do a significant amount of dehumidification? How do you control temperature? What can you tell us about environmental control, I guess?
Well, I would tell you, and there was a press release that went out. The company is Skywell, and I think they do a terrific job. Look at them, and they are the company and the unit that produces the water for us. It produces. It was really not supposed to produce as much as it did because of the humidity that's being created in the growing unit now. It actually became a dehumidifier as a secondary buy. So it's just pulling all of that out of the growing unit and creating that water. And so being a dehumidifier really helps us. It's doing actually more for us than we thought it was going to do, other than just make us water, right? So that is really helping us on a second level, if you would.
Is there someone we missed? We're coming near the end.
Thank you. I was thinking biological enhancer. Do you use any biological enhancer there, like mycorrhizae or microbes that would help the crops grow faster and bigger and be more nutritious?
I don't think microbes in general, right?
Our other grower specializes in tea brewing, and he has all kinds of microbial inoculants that he uses in special blends to help the biology in the substrate.
Do not give him the microphone again. Do not.
Other questions? Maybe we.
I get to go have dinner?
Maybe it's
Close?
almost
Close?
time to have some dinner. Yeah, that could be soon. We're all getting hungry. Aaron wants to go home. Why don't we thank Ed for his time and energy here? It was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Applause, lots of applause. Okay, that's what it was. All those out there, we really appreciate you asking all the good questions, and I hope we got to some of them, and that you will come back and see us in about a month when we do this again with another set of speakers coming out of California. Must be a lot going on in California, but they're going to be talking more about how we're going to grow food on Mars and how the Mars greenhouse will ultimately be feeding. Maybe it'll even have a growing system like Urban Produce. Who knows? We'll see what happens, but that's going to come. Matt Damon's on his way. Yes, definitely going to be on his way. That was a question from the audience. I want to thank Dave Bogner for getting this webcast together for us, and again, your team, Ed, Nicole, and Rosie. Thank you very much for your time and energy. Everyone, there will be an announcement by Dr. Rohrbaugh in a second. I want to sign off from the seminar right now and say thank you very much. See you again, or see you online. Thank you. Bye-bye.